Today I want to look at a couple of word problems with you, and like we've been doing this week, we're going to continue to use fractions when we're solving word problems. Today I want to think about this piece of paper as a cake. Let's say I went to a party and I took a cake with me, and here's my cake. I took the cake, and when I got ready to leave the party, half of the cake was left. So here's my cake. This part's gone. I still have this part here. So I bring home half of the cake. Now at my house there are 3 people. There's me, there's my husband, and there's our daughter. And so we decide we're going to share what's left of the cake. And we want to know what size piece does each person get. So let's see if we can figure that out. So here's my half of the cake that's left. And we want to share this for 3 people. So we're going to fold it. So I'm going to get this piece. My husband will get this piece. And my daughter gets this piece. And we want to know what size piece are we getting. So let's look back as if this cake was whole. If this would have been cut this way to start with, I want to know, there's my piece. What size is it? Well, if I look at this as if this was the whole cake, one whole cake is now in 6 equal parts. So my piece is 1/6. Now, I want to show you what that looks like with manipulative. So here's the whole cake. It's a very small cake. Here's the whole cake that I took to the party. And remember, when I came back, I only had half of it. So this half was eaten, and this is the half that we still have. So here's the half that I have. This half has been eaten. And if I cut this that I still have into 3 equal parts so that we can share them, then we have 3 pieces that we've sliced it into. If I looked at that as if it was the whole cake sliced that way, I can now see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So each one of these pieces that we get to eat is a 1/6 size piece. Let me show you with fraction bars. Here's my whole cake, and I brought half of it home. When I slice that into 3 pieces for us to share, they're each 1/6 size. Now, I want to point out the biggest mistake I see kiddos make. They like to call this part, or this part, 1/3, because it is 1/3 of this. But we have to talk in relationship to the whole cake, or to the whole fraction bar. So this isn't 1/3 of the whole. If I put it back on the whole, you can see it's not 1/3 of the whole because it doesn't make up one whole. Let me show you what that looks like. If it was 1/3, my pieces would be this big. But let's look. I only had half a cake to start with. So can each of us get 1/3? If each of us got 1/3, it would be way more than I even started with when we decided to share the leftover cake. So I have to remember that I'm talking about these parts always in relation to the whole cake. Even though half that cake is gone, I still talk about the portion that I'm getting in relation to the whole. So just like back here, it would take 6 of those to make one whole. So my part that I'm getting is 1/6. Let's look at the math for that. Remember, I had half of a cake left, and I'm breaking it up into parts to share with people. I'm going to get a piece, my husband's going to get a piece, my daughter's going to get a piece. And when I take something and I break it up into equal parts, that's division. And I'm dividing by 3 so that 3 people each get an equal part. And we proved with paper, with our manipulatives, and with our fraction bars that this equals 1/6. And just like we saw before, this was like looking at the relationship between the whole number and the denominator. So remember, here I'm only getting a part of what I have. My fraction got smaller than what I started with. So 1/2 divided up into 3 equal parts equals 1/6, because my part is 1/6 of the whole cake. Let's look at another problem and see how that works with a second problem. In this problem, you and a friend have each been challenged to run a race. The race is 1/4 of a mile long, but you get to share that distance. You don't have to run the whole 1/4 of a mile. You get to run part of it, and your friend gets to run part of it. So you decide, we're going to run equal parts. I'm going to run the same amount as my friend. So this is a whole mile, but we're only running part of a mile. We're going to run 1/4 of a mile. So here's the part of a mile that we're going to run. If I fold this into fourths, here's my 1/4 of a mile that we're going to run. But now the good news is I don't have to run all of it. I get to share that distance equally with one other person. So I need to break this into 2 pieces, because I'm going to run part of the 1/4 mile race and my friend is going to run part of the 1/4 mile race. So let's break that into 2 parts. So here's our 1/4 mile. We're going to share it equally, so I'm going to fold it so that it's 2 equal parts. Now, my 1/4 mile race shared with one friend just became smaller parts of that race. And here's the part that I have to run, and here's the part that my friend has to run. And I just want to know, what part do each of us have to run of that mile? Well, let's look at how many parts is the whole mile broken up into now. Well, now this whole mile is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equal parts. One part out of this whole mile, which is broken up into 8 pieces, is 1/8. So I say that I have to run 1/8 and my friend has to run 1/8. And when we do that together, we will have run 1/4 of a mile. Let's see how else that can be modeled. So here's the whole mile, and this is the part of it that we have to run. If I break this into 2 pieces, it takes 1/8, 2/8 to make 1/4. So here's my part of the race, here's my friend's part of the race. When I break 1/4 into 2 equal parts, they are each equal to 1/8. And again, I want to caution you, when we break things into 2 parts, we like to say that means it's 1/2. But it's not 1/2, because that's farther than we have to run together. We don't even have to run half of this race together. Half of this race would be all of this. We don't even have to run all of that. We only have to run this portion of the race. So yes, we're sharing it by breaking it into 2 equal parts, but we want to know the distance. And when I break 1/4 of a mile into 2 equal parts, each of those parts is equal to 1/8. So let's look at the math for that. That's like saying I have 1/4 of a mile and I'm breaking it into 2 equal parts. And we noticed this relationship between the denominator and the whole number shows that I'm running 1/8 of a mile. 4 times 2 is 8, and this is 1/8 of a mile.